Ikwo was employed as a nanny. It was meant to be a simple job. Just clean, feed the baby and go. But the moment that child looked up and called her mama, the whole house froze. No one, not even Ikwo, was ready for what came next. It was a sunny afternoon in Lagos. Akan, a wealthy businessman, sat on the floor in his living room trying desperately to calm his crying child, while his wife, Eme, scrolled through her phone, barely paying attention to their crying baby. The baby had been crying non-stop, but the moment he saw Ikwo, his face lit up. He stretched his tiny arms toward her and ran into her arms. Then it happened. "Mama," the child said, smiling. The entire room went quiet. Emma's eyes widened, and she put down her phone. "What did you just say?" Emma asked, her voice shaking. The child repeated, "Mama." Ikwo stood still. Her heart started beating really fast. She had no words. Akan stood up slowly, watching the baby. Cling tightly to Ikwo's neck, refusing to let go. Something felt off. This wasn't just nanny-child bonding. This was deeper. And Akan, a man who trusted his instincts, decided to find out the truth. Akan was a very rich man. Not just rich, he was highly influential. He had everything he could want. A beautiful wife, money, and power. But he yearned for just one thing. Akan yearned for a child of his own. For 5 years he waited, but no matter how hard he tried, his wife, Eme, never got pregnant. What he didn't know was that Eme hated the idea of being pregnant. Eme had been secretly taking contraceptives. She didn't want stretch marks. She didn't want to lose her shape. In fact, she didn't even want children. She wanted Akan's wealth and status. She couldn't bring herself to tell Akan that she hated the idea of getting pregnant. Eme didn't know how Akan would react if she told him that she didn't want to carry his baby. She was afraid of losing it all, the fame, luxury, and the status of being married to the Akan Ikwere. Eme was caught off guard one day when Akan told her that they should travel to London for a proper medical evaluation. They were set to travel out in a week's time when Eme gave Akan a shocking news. She had missed her period. Akan drove her to the hospital himself and their doctor confirmed it. Eme was pregnant. The trip to London was cancelled. 4 months into the pregnancy, Eme told her husband that she wanted to travel to UK for proper medical care. He quickly agreed. He didn't want anything to go wrong. Eme came back months after with an adorable baby boy, and Akan's heart couldn't have known more joy. His baby boy was the center of his world, but things were still not rosy for Akan. In fact, Eme, his wife, was a thorn in his flesh because she refused to breastfeed her own baby, and the baby wouldn't stop crying. Akan couldn't get his wife to breastfeed the child. He just couldn't force her, and she wouldn't do it willingly. Eme simply told her husband that she didn't want her breast to sag. Akan found what his wife was saying to be preposterous. Breastfeeding was something most women did out of love for their babies. This was just one of the many problems Akan was facing. Eme's maternal instinct just didn't get the memo that Eme was now a mother because she just didn't like holding her own baby. Akan found himself cancelling meetings upon meetings just to stay home and nurse his son. As for late night feedings, Eme just couldn't lose her beauty sleep, not even for her son. One day, Eme brought the idea of getting a nanny and Akan jumped at it. Eme had no idea that she was unconsciously digging her own grave. Ikwo came to the house as a nanny, but the way she treated the baby marveled and impressed Akan. She doted on the cute little boy so much. Akan thought she was excellent at her job, but with time, he found it a little bit odd. Akan was happy that the baby had someone to care for him, since his mother found shopping and going out more rewarding. But the bond between the baby and the nanny was getting weird. The baby started refusing food from Eme, but would eat when Ikwo fed him. If the baby cried at night, it was only the hums of Ikwo's lullaby that could get him to sleep. And as he heard his own son utter his first words, calling the nanny mama, Akan felt very uncomfortable. Akan couldn't get the image out of his head. The baby just didn't like Ikwo. He needed Ikwo. From that day, Akan watched Ikwo secretly. One night, he saw something that changed everything. From the hallway, Akan saw Ikwo breastfeeding his baby. His heart stopped. It was very disturbing to see his son's nanny breastfeeding his baby. Ikwo was a young lady. From her employee records, she wasn't married or nursing a baby. Akan found it really odd. He quietly went back to his room and waited till morning. A month after, Akan called Eme and Ikwo to his private sitting room. They both looked uncomfortable and guilty. Akan let them sit for a few minutes in silence before bringing out the envelope. In this envelope is a DNA test result I carried out on that baby. Do you both have something you would like to share with me? He asked. Ikwo got on her knees. I am very sorry, sir. I am very sorry, ma, she pleaded. Eme, her madam, was confused and worried. She had no idea what Ikwo was sorry for. Sit down, Akan instructed her. And she sat. Eme, you need to start talking, Akan said, as he stared directly at his wife. The nerves on his forehead were bulging out the angrier he got. If you're enjoying this story, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and share this story with your loved ones. Back to the story. Eme knew all her plans had backfired, so she started talking. When you said we had to travel to London for a comprehensive checkup, I panicked and I didn't want to have a baby, so I paid Dr. Shola to get your sperms and fertilize the eggs of a surrogate. I should have used my eggs, but I didn't want to take those hormonal drugs and get all bloated and fat. So I got a surrogate to carry the baby. But it's still your baby, Eme said, without any iota of remorse. What she didn't mention was the years she had taken contraceptives just so that she wouldn't get pregnant. Akan couldn't believe his ears. Her reason for deceiving him was so stupid and vain. So, your reason for deceiving me was not because you had a medical condition that stopped you from getting pregnant. It was because you didn't want to lose your figure. Why didn't you tell me instead of cooking up such a scheme? Why did you deceive me for so long? Is that why you came up with so many reasons why I couldn't visit you while you were in London? Akan asked, suddenly feeling stupid. Akan looked at Eme and he saw her for who she was, a beautiful vain woman who didn't care for anyone but herself. So you prefer to pay her to carry my baby without my knowledge and consent, Akan said and pointed to Ikwo. Eme turned to look at Ikwo. Akan could see the shock on her face. Ikwo got on her knees immediately. I am so sorry, Ikwo pleaded. Well, it's time I tell you about Ikwo's story. Ikwo was a young village girl with one big dream: to leave Nigeria for Germany. She wanted a better life. Her best friend Idim worked as a cleaner in a big fertility hospital. One day, Idim whispered a secret to her friend. Ikwo, women dey collect big money to donate egg for here o. You fit try am? Ikwo was shocked but curious. She agreed. After donating her eggs, she was paid more money than she had ever seen in her entire life. She was excited, but the money wasn't enough. She wanted more. So she signed up to become a surrogate. She was told she would carry someone else's baby, and she agreed. She was paid in advance, and she started saving for a trip to Germany. But something changed. One night, Edim, her friend, came to her and whispered into her ears, Ikwo, I checked the file. That baby you dey carry na your own egg o. They no use another woman egg. Dat pikin na your flesh and blood. Ikwo couldn't believe it. She cried. She wanted to run, but the contract was strict. The thought of giving away her own baby, her own flesh, haunted her. The contract had been signed. The moment she gave birth, the baby was taken from her. She never met the parents, but the pain of giving up her child stayed with her until one day, Edim gave her the address of the woman who took the baby. Ikwo took the address, and luckily, when she came to the house, she realized that they were interviewing nannies. She quickly joined, took the interview, and got the job. Listening to Ikwo's explanation only infuriated Eme. She sprang to her feet. How dare you come into my home? Eme yelled. You were paid to do a simple job. How dare you show up here? Eme screamed at the top of her voice. You call bringing a child into the world simple? Akan asked. I didn't want to ruin my body. Yes, I just wanted a child for you, Akan. I didn't know the surrogate would come into our home, Eme said, trying to defend herself. Akan looked at Eme. He just couldn't believe this woman. Somehow, it made Akan happy seeing Eme angry. It was good she was angry that Eme spoiled her plans by showing up as a nanny. Eme's anger was nothing compared to how angry Akan had been when he found out that the child, the one he loved deeply, was not his wife's eggs, but that of Ikwo, the nanny. The realization that Ikwo wasn't just a nanny, but the biological mother of his child, haunted Akan. Later that evening, Akan called Ikwo into his study. He looked at her and gently asked, Why didn't you tell me the truth? Ikwo dropped to her knees and cried. I didn't come to cause trouble, sir. I just wanted to see my baby, to hold him, to love him, even if it's from afar. Tears filled Akan's eyes. He had been lied to, but he saw the love in Ikwo's eyes. The child was hers, and now his heart belonged to both of them. Soon after, Eme packed her bags and left. Her life had caught up with her. Akan offered Ikwo a proper home, not as a nanny, but as a mother of his son. He didn't force love or marriage, but he gave her respect, peace, and protection. Ikwo never made it to Germany, but in that house with her son in her arms, she found a better life than she had ever dreamed of. This story teaches us that lies, no matter how carefully crafted, will eventually unravel. Eme's vanity and manipulation gave her a temporary life of wealth and status, but it cost her trust, family, and love. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story touched your heart, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African folk tales. Until next time, stay true, stay kind, and never underestimate the power of truth. Bye.